Hello. Hello, Sarah. How are you? Good to see that we're on. Leonie. Oh, thank you to my admin who posted that. That's a link to our weatheriq.com.au/sign up page if you'd like to support us and actually access these forecasts on a regular basis. There's a handy link there for you. All right. We are about to get going. I just need to make sure that it just takes a couple of minutes. I've gotten better at getting the thing online. It takes a couple of minutes just for the notifications to go out and people to go, oh shit, these guys are online again. Yeah, so I'll be with you in a sec. By the way, the background today is a beautiful sunset over Crete. It's a beautiful island in Greece. It's Greece's biggest island. It's just a beautiful island. If you love food, if you like Greek cuisine or just Mediterranean cuisine, the best food in Greece, in Crete. Oh, that and Thessaloniki, best food there. But just magical beaches. 2 of the world's best 5 beaches are on this island. Elafonisi and Balos. Balos and Elafonisi constantly make the top 5. Sometimes they're number 1 and 2. Sometimes they're 4 and 5, depending on the year. When there's pink sand on, is it Balos? No, Elafonisi. Oh, I forget now. Anyway, one of them's a pink sand beach. There wasn't pink sand there when I went last year, so I think it dropped to like number 5 because there was no pink sand. But beautiful sunsets, beautiful beaches. Number 1, probably my favourite island, that and Lefkada and Limnos, 3 of my favourite islands in Greece. That one's Crete. All right, let's get going. So we had a Category 4 system hitting the coast this morning about 7 a.m. By the way, my name's Chris Nitzo, lead forecaster at Weather IQ, if you're wondering who this bloke gibbering is, for those of you tuning in for the first time. Our major sponsor, Fair Dinkum Builds, got to give them a plug. We thank them for their constant and ongoing sponsorship. They've been with us now for, better part of 10 years. For those of you that want to support us, we've got a Weather IQ subscription service at weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. And you've got options there. $32.95 is where we start, and $69.95 gets you everything. And it's a year, not a monthly fee. All right, so it's once a year. It doesn't break the bank, but you get a bunch of excellent information. Well, I think it's excellent information. I'm pretty sure most of our subscribers think it's excellent. We've got a 97% retention rate. Did you know that? 97%. So only 3% of our subscribers leave us on any one particular year. Pretty impressive. I'm pretty chuffed with ourselves for that. I'm very, very happy with that. All right, let's get stuck into it. So the cyclone hit the coast. Let's have a quick look. Around just to the north of Cowan, well, northeast of Cowan, because Cowan's inland. But if we do take a look at the last 12 hours or so of the radar, we'll go out to 12 hours. Ooh. Yeah, so there it is there. So hitting the coast around about, it started hitting the coast. The eye was a little bit pear-shaped as it got onto the coast, but it started hitting the coast about 7 o'clock in the morning. You can see there about 7:15 it was on the coast, and then the end of the other side of the eye hit the coast at about 9. So it started about 6:30, finished at 9 by the time the eye was quite clearly over the top of the region. Now, the cyclone was weakening on approach to the coast. It definitely wasn't a Cat 5 on approach. Might have been a very low Cat 4 on approach based on the satellite signatures. And then as the cyclone pushed inland, fairly quickly downgraded to a 3, has been since downgraded to a 2. And interestingly, we're looking at a structure of a cyclone now, which is pretty poor. So the cyclone has lost a lot of structure. You'll notice there, Cowan got bugger all on the south side. They got a bit of rain and a bit of wind at the start, and then not much at all from the backside of the cyclone. Archer River might have got some pretty bad stuff there. We haven't seen any footage from Archer River, but they might have been the ones worst hit. Lockhart River copped Category 1 winds for a short period of time, and the area around Weipa is actually copping it pretty hard in the last couple of hours on the northern side of the circulation. Remember, that was one of the things we were gibbering on about for quite some time now. It's the northern side of the circulation that packs a punch. not the southern. All right, so the idea was that has continued to occur. The cyclone is now pushing through Arakoon. Now, the cyclone's a little bit strange, and I'll explain that in the pre-recorded video that I've done for this area so you can understand it. So the cyclone actually has multiple centres. So a tropical cyclone has centres at the surface through the different levels of the atmosphere, and it needs to stack those like a pancake. Now, if it can't stack those like a pancake, it starts to look very oval shaped, and that's what we had here. So once the cyclone went inland, it became a bit of an oval shaped feature. Now, the cyclone's going to have to stack itself again. So once it gets back off the ocean, it's going to have to stack again. So I want you to have a look at this video. Or we issued this to subscribers a little bit of time ago, and this talks about what you can experience here around Weipa and Arakoon for the next few hours, and then talks about the pancakes, and then talks about how that pancake stuff is going to affect the eastern part of NT. I think in the first few minutes we also talk a little bit about the rainfall around the around far north Queensland's coastline. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're tuning in for the first few minutes of this. All right, so this is a pre-record video. It'll go for about 20 minutes. First 7 minutes talks about Queensland. Next 13 minutes talks about the NT. And then after I've played that, I'll come back on and ask you for some questions. Okay? All right. Bear with me while I get our pre-record video up. Good evening, folks. Welcome to our evening update. This one also goes out to the public. This is looking at ground zero on the west coast of Queensland and ground zero on the east coast of the Northern Territory, and looking at our on-the-ground effects over the course of the next 24 hours or so. This update brought to you by townsvillesheds.com. Now, we've seen the section of the centre, so down in the technicalities here. This update brought to you by townsvillesheds.com. Now, we've seen significant
Can we hear that?
around Weipa on the northern side of this circulation. I want to talk quickly about the structure without getting too bogged down in the technicalities here. There is an elongation of the centre. So what we're actually seeing here is a centre of circulation which is located here, but an upper level circulation which is located here, and the distance between the two circulations is approximately 50 to 70 kilometres. All right, so what this means is that the cyclone is just struggling at the moment to stack its different layers on top of itself. And remember, with tropical cyclones, we had this issue before in previous cyclones where they need to be stacked like a pancake from top to bottom. And in this cyclone, the top has continued moving west, the bottom has been moving a lot slower to the west. And you can see the difference there. The projected position of the top of the circulation, the 300 hectopascal level, is right here. And at the same time, at the surface or near surface level, we are here. So we are about 70 kilometres away. Now, the top is creating significant convection on the northwestern side of the circulation, and once again that comes down to the tropical upper tropospheric trough, or the TUT, which is creating a beautiful exhaust system on the north side, but it's creating limited exhaust processes on the southeastern side. So what does this mean? Let's start talking turkey. So what this means is that our strongest of the strongest effects of this system are now currently over Weipa. Weipa is copping the brunt of this. Even though the centre is going to push over Arakoon, Weipa is copping the brunt, not Arakoon. And the reason Weipa is copping it is because they're on the northwestern side. So the upper level exhaust system is fully efficient on that northwestern side. The surface level system is driving strong winds directly onto the coastline, and we're seeing some gusts up around Weipa at 50 to 60 knots. They might even get up to 60 to 70 knots over the coming couple of hours. Now, for Arakoon, you can see that at this point in time, we're anticipating our strongest winds to have already formed from the south. And as the cyclone pushes offshore, the winds will turn northerly through Arakoon. And you can see gusting up to about 45 to 55 knots. Just off the coast of Arakoon is where we'll see some really strong cyclone winds, up around 70 knots. For Weipa, our big winds are coming right now. 4 p.m, 7 p.m, 10 p.m. This period here is where we see our biggest winds. After 10 p.m, our winds begin to moderate very quickly as they turn northerly. All right, so this right now, the last hour or two plus the next couple of hours is where things are getting hectic for WIQ. From a rainfall perspective, when is the heaviest rain? And very clearly on the northwestern side of the circulation, due to the structure and dynamics of the cyclone. We can see that WIQ is copping big rain, Aurukun is not. Cullen didn't cop big rain today, even though they were very close to the centre. So the idea here is that WIQ cops the big rain between 4 and 7, and then 7 to 10 you can start to see that the big rain pushes a bit offshore. Why? Because our cyclone isn't vertically stacked. So it's going to take a little bit of time to stack itself up like a pancake again. And that means that it's going to take a little bit of time to get going, get stronger. All right, so this period here where the cyclone gets off the coast, we're certainly going to see an increase in winds, but structurally and dynamically the cyclone isn't quite well put together at this point. The cyclone centre pushes off the coast of Aurukun by 10 p.m. tonight, sometime between 7 and 10. The cyclone's top is located much further to the west. So this is located still about 50 to 60 kilometres away from this. So that means that we've got to stack all the different levels of the pancakes up. And you can see the different levels here at the 500. Where's our centre? It's not quite there. So this pancake's over here. And where's the 700? Where's the pancake here? Just a little bit further east. Where's the 850 pancake? You can see that's a little further east. Where's the surface pancake? That's basically under the 850 pancake. So the 850 and the surface pancake are stacked. The rest of them, they're on a tilt. So we need to get the thing to stack, and then once we stack it, that's when we can start to create a stronger cyclone again. Now that's not going to happen immediately, definitely not. It's going to take time. So what we're going to see is those winds taken offshore, and then they become the Northern Territory's problem. You can see here, no more problems for the north part of Queensland. Their problems are done. By the time we get to about midnight, your problems in Queensland are all done from this system. You are getting a few showers coming in on the northerly flow. Outside of that, that's it. The only other area that might see some reasonable rainfall from this system is going to be the northeastern parts of Queensland, just in the convergence feeder band. So that's those areas on the North Tropical Coast, which we've talked about before, but let's just quickly hash over them, just so we can say we did. Let me find we'll go with Atherton. All right, so from the Atherton overlay here, you can certainly see there's a fair bit of shower activity expected throughout the night into tomorrow in this northeastern section, coming in with heavy showers at times, particularly focused around the Tully-Cardwell area. But look, there's some heavy showers down all the way down to about just north of Townsville. And then as we go through Saturday night, Sunday morning, you can see those heavy falls of rain shift back up north and have started to weaken out as well. And then most of next week should be mostly fine. So we're not expecting to see any major follow-up rain, but we are still expecting to see 100 to 300 mils on that section of coastline. So it's not done there for them. But from a worrying about tropical cyclone impacts perspective, we're done. We're done after about 10 p.m. We're done after about midnight. But for WIQ, it's going to be a hectic next few hours. And we can see with WIQ, they're getting around about Category 1 winds today, with gusts up around 109 kilometres an hour and sustained winds around that 65 to 70 kilometre an hour mark. So very low Category 1 winds, but look at the rainfall numbers really ramp up here in the last couple of hours as WIQ finds itself structurally in the most intense part of the cyclone. Rightio, so as the cyclone comes off the coast, it's not an immediate redevelopment and a re-strengthening. It's going to take a little bit of time to find all the pancakes and stack them up on the plate again. All right, so that little period is going to be this period here from tonight, 10 p.m, through to tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Now, the good thing about, for the cyclone's perspective, the good thing about that period is it's usually a period where cyclones intensify. So that period overnight, early in the morning, is what we call the diurnal maximum for convection over water. It's just a fancy way of saying storms get hungry and feed off the energy off the ocean a lot easier at night time compared to daytime thunderstorms, which get hungry over land and feed off the energy over the land. So here, our storms tend to like to feed overnight and in the morning. All right, so as these storms start to feed, they get stronger, but the cyclone still hasn't quite found all of its pancakes. Now, it takes until tomorrow morning and around about tomorrow morning to about tomorrow lunch before it finds all of its pancakes and stacks them up. The big thing to understand at that point is the diurnal maximum for convection over water is now finished. And so the idea here is going to be that the cyclone might just struggle to intensify a lot. It will still intensify because all of its pancakes are stacked, but it might struggle to intensify quickly at this point because the storms don't have as much energy that they can feed off at this time of the day, which is 4 p.m. Now, as we get to 9:30 p.m. NT time, we can see the cyclone is making its closest point of approach to Groote. In and around that period, between about 7 p.m. and 12 midnight, is when the cyclone is expected to be at its closest point of approach to Groote. And it has intensified to some degree in that time frame between the morning storms and the afternoon or evening landfall period. The cyclone then continues to track west-southwest overnight on Friday night, Saturday morning. Right, let's deep dive into Groote. What can Groote expect? The big thing to remember for Groote is going to be, are you north or are you south of the cyclone? The cyclone's tropical upper tropospheric trough that it's attached to, which extends up to New Guinea, is lethal on that northwestern side. It creates a beautiful exhaust pattern, and that won't change. Even if the pancakes start to stack, that part of the equation won't change. We're still going to see a very dynamic northwestern side of the circulation. Now for Groote, overnight tonight into early tomorrow, we're going to see some isolated, possibly gusty shower or a thunderstorm. After that, we're going to see a bit of a clearance. Now, as we get to about lunchtime tomorrow, we're going to start to feel the effects of that upper trough that creates that exhaust system on the western side of the circulation. And we're going to start to get significant rainfall development through about late morning, early lunchtime period. From here, it matters whether the cyclone hits us directly or whether the cyclone hits us just to the south. And for Groote and for Nhulunbuy, we're talking Nhulunbuy and Groote in this one, you can see the cyclone at the moment is expected to approach us from the east northeast towards the west southwest. So that means you avoid the most lethal side of the cyclone when it comes to convection, but you still cop very strong winds, cyclonic winds, on the south side of the circulation. And what we can see there is while that Groote and Nhulunbuy don't get huge rainfall, sure, it's going to be heavy at times, don't get me wrong, but not big rainfall. The big rainfall's on that northwestern side. And you can see there for Nhulunbuy and for Groote the opportunity for a fairly significant amount of rain. But you can also see the cyclone basically passes directly over Groote, and Groote isn't the area that's getting the big purpley red bits. You can see there's two distinct convergence zones. One's to the south and the bigger one and the stronger one to the north. All right, so that's where we are at the moment with regards to our rainfall patterns. And once the cyclone pushes past the coast, we're going to see significant rain on that northern flank of the system, and then this convergence band that comes through down towards the Borrow area, very sparsely populated section of coastline here in the southwest Carpentaria. And we see the cyclone then continue to track west, south, west to west across the base of the top end. All right, so as you can see, it's a highly once again, it's a very small cyclone. I know there's a lot of gibbering going on about how big it looked. No, it's a very, very small cyclone. It's very similar to Larry in size. The system packs a mighty punch, but it's only in a very, very small area. All right, so when we take a look at the surface winds of the cyclone, now the big thing to remember here is it's going to take time to stack the pancakes. All right, it's not going to stack them straight away. So this little period here, this evening and tonight, where the system's just trying to stack pancakes. While it's trying to stack pancakes, the storms are gobbling up all the energy from the ocean as much as they can, because they love to gobble up energy overnight and develop overnight. Now you can see our cyclone never getting past around about a 55 to 65 knot system. So it's still category 2 at this stage as we go into tomorrow lunchtime, but it's starting to stack the pancakes. And at this point, it would have fully stacked the pancakes. All right, so at this point here, we're now got a stacked vertically symmetrical, vertically stacked system, not necessarily symmetrical. So the northern side still packs the punch from a convective perspective, and at this stage, the northern side still packs the punch from a wind perspective. Now see what happens here when we stack the pancakes properly. See how we went from category 2 to category 3. bang, right there, on approach to Groote. So we see the cyclone intensifying, then we see land interaction. So this weakening is due to land interaction. Groote's a fairly big chunk of land, and we're already starting to disrupt the core here as well around the East Arnhem. The expectation then is that the system comes onto the coast as a Cat 2-ish, maybe low end 3. But there is a period here before it gets to Groote where it shows some signs of stacking and it shows some signs of intensification. So what are our winds doing? On the assumption that our cyclone passes on the northern edge of Groote, Groote is mostly seeing southerly winds. Now you can see that we max out at around about that 70 knot range at the moment, maybe getting up to about 80 to 90 knots on the back side of the circulation. So you can see as the circulation pushes past Groote, we get that big strong northerly, not shielded at all. And you can see there, big strong northerly coming through at about 80 plus knots, potentially up to 90 knots. So pretty significant low end category 3 tropical cyclone system there. For Nhulunbuy, we sort of max, oh, by the way, that then quickly settles down and pushes west. So you can see there, the time of cyclone strength winds for Groote starts around about mid to late afternoon, continues throughout the evening, and is over by very, very early in the morning, by the time most folks are waking up, if they indeed got any sleep. For Nhulunbuy, the expectation is on the south side of the circulation, but potentially on an area where we do see a bit of convergence. Nhulunbuy should see a period of about 6 hours or so of tropical cyclone strength winds from a little bit later than Groote. We see Nhulunbuy picking up those winds from about 9-10 p.m. at night tomorrow night through to about 4 or 5 in the morning. You can see just offshore off Nhulunbuy we maintain some cyclone strength winds, but Nhulunbuy itself is seeing an easing there by early in the morning. All right, so there's no real lingering effects, so don't expect big follow-up rains. It's just the intense action of the cyclone itself. All right, so lots of wind, lots of rain for a 6 to 12 hour period, all done and dusted after that. The HAFS model concurring with that assessment as well. You can see we're not getting anything more than an isolated shower or two in the early morning, with a little wave of showers and possible thunderstorms coming through early morning and then sort of mid-morning around Nhulunbuy. And then we have a bit of a break, and then we start to set the rain in. Now you can see here, it's the north, once again, very important if you're in Nhulunbuy to understand that it's the northwestern side. Now you might not see the strongest cyclone winds, just like WIQ wasn't supposed to see the strongest cyclone winds, but you're in the edge of the very significant convective core. All right, so sure, are the winds going to be quite as strong as they're probably going to be around Groote? Probably not. But you're going to get potentially more rain than Groote is, even though you're further away from the cyclone, even though they're the ones that are going to get hit. And that's because of the convective structure of the system. So you can see there, for Nhulunbuy, we've got a situation there where we develop that rainfall through the day and it sort of sticks around because you're on that northwestern side the whole time throughout the afternoon and into the evening. And then as the cyclone begins to stack itself later in the afternoon, you see how it contracts that convective field around it? Yeah, so that takes a bit of the heaviest rain away from Nhulunbuy and it pulls it a little closer to the core. All right, so that's where our cyclone starts to tighten up, strengthen a bit on approach to the coast, and then it hits the coast. All right, so that's the big thing for Nhulunbuy to understand, is you're going to see a fair bit of rain here before the cyclone even gets anywhere near the coast, associated with that northwestern convective signature of the cyclone. All right, so that's something you do need to be aware of if you're in Nhulunbuy. AI modelling will concur with that assessment, I hope, but we'll just make sure. You can see that there's not much going on there through the morning. There's that first wave of showers, but for Nhulunbuy, yeah, that heavier rainfall setting in from about 9:30, 10 o'clock onwards. And you can see there for Groote, we're starting to get that heavier rainfall, and then the system starts to stack itself, and you can see that heavy rain just contracting right into the northern core. And then you can see there for Groote, we're just south of that because the cyclone's making a direct impact on Nhulunbuy, or just north of Nhulunbuy. And for Nhulunbuy, you'll notice there that the rain field just contracts into the cyclone a bit as it intensifies and hits the coast. All right, so that's the expectation. That's the thinking behind it. Just be aware those numbers are pretty significant. All right, the cyclone is producing rainfall in about 150 mils over 6 hours. Really significant rain, but it's a very sparsely populated section of coastline again. The big threat is going to come if the cyclone decides to jut southwards a bit down to here, and then Nhulunbuy and the other little townships up here find themselves on the northern core boundary. That's the big threat. The other big threat, but unlikely threat, and this one is a threat that is still likely to happen. There's still a chance that it does dip, an extra 20, 30k south and hits the southern part of Groote head on, which means that the populated northern part of Groote gets caned. So the other threat, which isn't quite as, it's a significant threat, but it's not quite likely to happen, is that the cyclone stays further north of its forecast track, further up to here, and hits the coast down here, which puts Nhulunbuy on that very, very intense northern core. All right. Once again, we don't expect that to happen, but that's what we're on the lookout for tomorrow. All right. We're on the lookout for a cyclone that dips a little further south towards the southern edge of Groote, or that moves further north and ends up coming onto the coast between sort of midway, or even slightly more than north of midway between Nhulunbuy and Groote. So the expectation at this stage is going to be, that would be the situation where we would see a worst case scenario for Nhulunbuy. But for now, let's leave the doom porn and the disaster porn, and let's look at what we're anticipating. We're anticipating a coastal crossing in this location, which means Nhulunbuy is out of the deepest convective core, and Groote, while getting a head-on collision with the cyclone in that setup, is likely to find itself in the southern boundary, or the southern half of the eye, and in which case, while it's very intense from a wind perspective, we're not compounding that with 150 mils of very fast, very rapid rain rates. All right, so that's where we are at the moment for ground zero today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll be also talking about the inland parts of the Northern Territory. So for those of you watching this online that aren't members, make sure you check out our membership options. $32.95 a year they start at. They're not going to break the bank, and we go into in-depth information about exactly what you can expect over your locations during times of cyclones and severe weather. All righty. That's basically what I've got. The only other thing I want to touch on before we ask for questions is, let's turn this down a bit. Right, the only other thing I want to touch on is that there are a few other things happening in the tropics after this. Now, obviously, what we don't know, and I can't speculate on tonight, and I know there'll be someone from WA that wants to ask me this. You'll want to ask me, what are the chances this thing's going to hit WA? And the answer is the chances are increasing, but they're not at the stage where we can definitively say it is. And we're not at the stage where we want to start speculating where, because we can see here there's all sorts of solutions. Mr. Squiggle's got his crayons out, and you can see we start at Pardue. We go all the way west of Exmouth, all the way down to Bunbury. So, or Albany even. So, we're not going to put the whole of WA on alert for a cyclone that's only going to affect a small portion of it. And so for now, we understand that the cyclone will come off the coast of the NT, then off the coast of the Kimberley, and then have to do that vertical stacking process that it's going to have to do here in the Gulf, and then gradually will intensify. We can see that happening, and we've got really good evidence that it will re-intensify off the coast, and you can see the intensity estimates really growing once it gets off the Pilbara coast. So we're seeing clear evidence of that part, but what we're not seeing clear evidence of is the recurvature, and how far does the cyclone go before it recurves. And you can see two different solutions there. One is a harmless solution, one is a very harmful solution, and then you can see we've got all sorts of bits in between. All right, and especially some of the ones that concern us the most are the ones that hit basically from Ningaloo eastwards, because these ones hit us at full force. If we're getting something that goes down towards Gero, it's not going to hit Gero at full force. If it does hit up here, it's going to be hitting at full force. All right, so they're the ones that concern us, but there's not enough of them for that concern to then become a forecast just yet. All right, so That is, as I say, that's the one. These are the ones that do concern us the most, though. They're the ones that are going to be strongest. And you can see earliest potential, if we're looking at an impact, is going to be Wednesday, Thursday, more likely Friday, Saturday. But once again, I can show you this set of models, and almost not one of them has a coastal crossing. All right, so it's one of those situations where it's a wait and see approach. And the big thing that I've said to the members, and the big thing I'm going to say to you, is that we got a lot of time to figure this shit out. We don't have to figure it out now. We don't have to start panicking the whole Western Australian coastline for something that may or may not happen. We got plenty of time, just like I told the Queenslanders. We'd have plenty of time. We didn't need to start drawing little squiggly maps with cyclones hitting Cairns, Cat 5s hitting Cairns like some other folks did. All right? If a cyclone was going to hit Cairns, you would have had 5 days proper notice of the cyclone hitting Cairns. All right, so the idea is we don't need to start speculating too far ahead of time when we know that we've got no real clue about what's going to happen here off the coast of WA. All right, the rest of it's just all it does is get likes and clicks. That's it. All right, it doesn't have any grounding in science at the moment to try and speculate whether or not we're going to see an impact here. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the Coral Sea again. It's not done with us yet. So what we're expecting through the Coral Sea is another low pressure system to form over the weekend out here in the Solomon Islands area. And that low, this time around, there's a fairly significant force field around Queensland. So after this cyclone pushes to the west, old Narelle, once she's out into the NT, there's a big force field that develops around southern Queensland, central Queensland. That force field extends into the Coral Sea, and that force field keeps cyclone activity off the coast. And you can see every single member here keeps the cyclone off the coast for at least the next 5 to 7 days. Now, what we're interested in is beyond this time frame. So this one here is going to make sure Queenslanders stay fine and dry and sunny and all that beautiful weather that you normally expect in Queensland. All right, that's the stuff that low is going to do. So the only thing that's going to do is drive some swells in southeast Queensland. So if you're a surfer, you're going to love life as we go through next week. We're going to see massive waves, 3, possibly even up to 4 metre waves, with some pretty long fetch swells as well. So might be great time to be a surfer. Not a great time if you live on the beach and you don't like your surfing. Right. So the next thing we're watching for is an area of potential disturbed weather right in the far northern tropics. But we've got so many variations to the signalling here that once again, it's very similar to that WA thing, right? We could have something forming as far west as the Arafura and as far east as the Solomon Islands. And once again, the big thing we're watching here is because we can see that the force field over Queensland that's going to be there for the next 5 to 7 days, that force field breaks down after about days 7, 8. So from about next weekend onwards, or possibly maybe Monday of that week onwards, so 8, 9, 10 days time, after that, our little force field over Queensland will break down. So these ones out here might pose a problem to us longer term. The same thing happens for the Northern Territory though. So if the low sort of forms in the Arafura, it might pose a problem for the NT coast. Right, there's not clear evidence at the moment, but there is a little bit of rumbling there, and you can certainly see there's a few little dots that are starting to pop up randomly up there in the north. So we're just watching that area at the moment. We're not overly concerned about the area. If we start to see a concentration of dots, that's when watching becomes a bit more concerning, okay? So for now, it just means that we've got one cyclone, that's our main system. We've got another one that's going to form around the Solomons and track southwards. That's going to drive some surf and some beautiful weather for the rest of the state, but some surf for southeast Queensland. And then we've got potentially something else brewing in 10 to 15 days, but we just don't know where, when, how strong. We sort of understand, though, that the steering will likely be an east to west steering at the time. So that's the part that otherwise we wouldn't be the least bit interested in this next one. All right, so because of the east to west steering, it at least interests us because we know that anything forming out here will likely come towards us. Anything forming out here will likely come towards us if we're in the top end. So that's why we're slightly interested in days 10 to 15, and I've already spent way too much airtime talking about it because the overall probability of something happening out there is about 30%. Okay, so that means 7 out of 10 chance there'll be nothing there, and we're gibbering about nothing for the last 3 minutes. 3 out of 10 chance that we might actually have something to worry about. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment, longer term. All right, let's go to, now before I go to, I've been told I've got to plug our subscription service a bit more because we don't do it enough. weatheriq.com.au/subscribe, folks, if you'd like to support us. Plans start at $32.95 a year. The website is down there, https weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. It starts at $32.95. You get all the forecasts for that. $69.95. You get all the weather graphics that we've got as well. All right, that's all the radar, satellite, model animations, all that sort of stuff. So consider doing that. And we also thank our sponsors once again, Fair Income Builds, our major sponsors. All right, let's get stuck into some questions. All right. I bet the fishing camp at the entrance to Kendall River has taken a battering. I'm not sure where Kendall River is, mate. So I'm not sure. Ditsom, which way is it heading? Ditsom, we've just talked about that, mate. So just go back and have a look. Robert White, and great ventriloquism from the bloke in the dark shirt. Righto, mate. Sky says the tut stopped the rain. No, it didn't stop the rain. It just recalibrated where the rain was. So it's actually made the rain much more intense on the northern side, and it took a lot of the rain away from the southern side. So it hasn't stopped there. The tut doesn't stop the rain. It just redistributes the rain. So in that last low we had a tut. Remember the one that hit Innisfail? So the idea is that with that, the system hit Innisfail. So normally when we get a low that hits Innisfail, we expect to see rain down towards Townsville absolutely get pummeled, right? So in that setup, the rain actually redistributed. We still got pummeled, but instead of Townsville and that Ingham area getting pummeled, the pummeling happened up in the Daintree. So in this situation, instead of the southern side of the circulation or a symmetrical rainfield, we had an asymmetrical rainfield. The wind field was still quite symmetrical, but the rainfield was very asymmetrical, so very northward biased when it comes to the rain. But the wind itself on approach to the coast would have been strong on every single quadrant. So it's not as if that had any effect on the wind, but from a rain perspective, absolutely, it definitely stayed on the northern side, and that's what the tut will do, because the tut is an area very low wind shear underneath it, but right on either side of the tut, we either have a really diffluent airstream, so a divergent airstream in the upper levels, or a convergent airstream in the upper levels. And the convergent airstream drives a hell of a lot of wind shear, which takes all of the deep convection and pushes it away on the other side of the tut, on the leading side of the tut. So the cyclone, and the reason it sort of looks pretty ordinary this evening, is because the centre near the surface slowed down, but the tut kept going. So the upper part of the circulation kept going, and so that's already out in the Gulf, and the surface circulation is now only just getting to the Gulf. All right, so that's the difference. So when we've got that, when we can stack those different levels up, that's when the cyclone can have another go. All right, and that's why, for those of you wondering why I'm talking about pancakes, yes, I do love pancakes, but that's not. There's a scientific reason why we talk about the pancake stack. When we're talking about the different levels of the cyclone, we want to see all the different levels stacking up, just like you would if you went for a breakfast pancake, when there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the different layers of pancakes stacked on top of each other, right? Beautiful. So that's the easiest way I can visualize it when I explain it to people who maybe not so scientifically inclined. Gary, live in King Ash Bay, which is between Borrow and the coast. Can we expect any more than 35 knots? No, Gary. You're pretty fine in Borrow here, mate. The cyclone's got to do some pretty weird stuff to get that far south, and it's not going to do that weird stuff. So if we do take a look, and we'll use the high-res model, because you never know, there could be some little localised pockets here. So what are we getting? We're getting 25. We're getting 35 to 40 knots out here. I'm just going to zoom us in because you said you're halfway between Borrow and the coast. So, you know, Borrow's a fair way inland and the coast is a fair way away. So we can see there's a pretty sharp little wind gradient between what the coast gets, which is going to be 30 to 35 knots, and what just inland of the coast gets, which is 20 to 25 knots. Right, so there's about a 10 to 15 knot difference. So you can see there that our big winds are happening Saturday night and the first early hours of Sunday, where we've got that southeasterly turning east northeasterly, and then when it turns east northeasterly, so after the cyclone's pushed over land, this is the part, if you're going to get any strong winds in this area, it'll be this part here, but we're not talking about anything major, mate. We're just talking about, you know, a windy bloody day. Like it's not a holy shit, the roofs are going to fly off sort of thing. It's you know, you might get 35 to 40 knots gusts, not sustained winds. 1 second gusts. These are 1 second gusts, not the bomb's 3 second gusts. So 1 second gusts up around 35 to 40 knots would probably be anticipated. The only thing I'd say here, see how we do get this little pocket of really strong winds. Just be aware that if we do get sort of just little tiny sort of convective cells on the outskirts of the periphery of the cyclone, these little suckers here can pack a gusty punch, right? So they're not going to keep your sustained winds up, but like any time, whenever we've got thunderstorms on the periphery of cyclones, they can produce really gusty winds on the outer bands. So that's the sort of thing we'd be looking for overnight, Saturday night, Sunday, very, very early hours of Sunday morning. So these little convective bands on the outskirts. That's what we'd be looking for there, Gary. So that will, but it's not a sustained. So we're not sustaining those wind speeds. All right. So it's just the intense gusts that come with the storms that you'd be looking for there, mate. Joanne, bacon pancakes. Do you think it's at least a bit strange in Cairns has never been hit by a severe cyclone? It has never been hit by a 4 or 5 in recorded history. Yeah, it is a little strange, I have to say, Newbie. So Newbie P. Moore says, do you think it's at least a little bit strange that Cairns has never been hit by a cyclone, has never been hit by a severe cyclone, never been hit by a 4 or 5 in recorded history? It is a 1 in 500 year event or something. No, it's just a matter of luck, because in the Cairns area is inside our little area that we call the hurricane corridor, or the cyclone corridor of the East Coast. So that starts from Cooktown and goes down to Ingham. The same applies over the Pilbara in WA, where it starts around 80 Mile Beach and heads out to about Onslow. That's their corridor. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of dumb luck that Cairns hasn't been hit. There's nothing there that deflects a cyclone, nothing physically that can deflect a cyclone. Yeah, so it is just dumb luck that you haven't been whacked. Hippie Girl, evening Nitso, just joined, will replay. Haven't even had a chance to look at the member vids today, but doubt it's been as busy as yours. Yeah, it's been a hectic day, Hippie. I was very late with some of the videos today. Peter, thanks Nitso for all the coverage. If you've lived up there, understand barges for supplies and flat locations with big tides and difficult to access to support. You know the locals are tough, but still need to be safe and deal with stuff all support. Yeah, that's the biggest thing with those remote locations, and it'll be the same in the NT when this cyclone hits the NT. It's going to hit those remote areas again. So it's always a difficult thing, isn't it? Especially when a lot of those remote locations require barges to bring the stuff in. So yeah, it's I can understand. I've never lived in those areas, but I can understand. We've certainly visited Groote, we've visited Morno, Mornington Island, we visited Nhulunbuy. So yeah, we sort of know how remote those areas are. I've been to Pomperour, right on the coast there. I've been to Weipa. So I've been to those places, just never lived there though. Yeah. Andrew Slatter. Hey Nitso, where are you living in Queensland when you aren't in Greece? If a cyclone hit, where would you chase it? Where you are, would you chase it? Yeah, Andrew, I live in Townsville in North Queensland. This is where Weather IQ HQ is. And in Greece, I live in northern Greece. So when I'm in Greece, it's more of a holiday, but we do a little bit of work when I'm over there as well, but mostly holiday, I'm not going to lie. Unless you... No, I won't say it. Yeah, so mostly holiday. So the idea is, so northern Greece, but I also visit a bunch of... I make it my goal to visit somewhere between 5 and 10 Greek islands a year until I've visited all the inhabited islands. So I'm up to 18. There's like 140 to go. Yep, I got a long way to go. Many more years of Greek trips. Just got to find a girl to go with me and enjoy 3 months of Greece with me. But anyway, that's another topic. Jody, Lynn Martin, you just missed the bit for Gove. Go back and watch later. Yes, I did talk about Gove. Will you talk about Catherine NT tomorrow morning? With the members, yeah, definitely. Catherine becomes a real focal point. Well, Catherine, Adelaide River, Daly River become the real focal points. Yeah. Jenna, what the heck? No thirst trap Friday, ladies. Nitso wore a polo. Thanks for making me laugh, Jenna. Matt, I'll make sure just for you, Jenna. Sunday night, back on the singlet. It's a rest day, so I might even have like a fun singlet on rather than a workout singlet. All right, I'll make it a note. Matt, enjoying Eyewall Light, loving it. Thanks, Nitso. No worries, Matt. Thanks for joining us, mate, and thanks for being a member. Sound is a bit soft. Yep, it would have been, and then I think I adjusted it. Hey, did you just pull a drink from the sun? Sorcery, says Matt. Oh yes, that sunset from Crete on the screen there is amazing, just beautiful. But it's one of, after you go to Greece for 3 months, 2 months and 3 weeks and 5 days, you're going to see beautiful sunsets. Maybe 2 days there might be cloud. Sarah Lee, hey, hello Nitso, brilliant work. You're the only one I listen to, so good. No worries, Sarah Lee. Thank you for joining us and thanks for your support. And I'm glad you're finding these videos entertaining or interesting at least. I try and I actually have fun doing them. Robert, I bet the fishing camp at the entrance and Kendall. Oh no, I've already read that one. Yeah, okay. So is that all? I haven't got any questions. Oh, that's a surprise. Yep, okay. Enjoying Iowa Light. Yep, all right, sweet. No worries. I thought there'd be a few more questions from the NT folk, but okay. No worries. Nice easy night for me. Nice early night. Thank you very much for watching. Just a reminder, folks, if you do want to subscribe, you do want to support us a bit more and make sure that you're up to date with all of the in-depth stuff because I issue them in the mornings primarily. So you're getting the latest information. Head over to weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. Check us out there. $32.95 a year. Not going to break the bank, but your support means a hell of a lot to us. And then $69.95 if you want all the weather graphics and all the jazz there, all the sort of scary pictures. All right, I'll talk to you again on... Oh, hang on. No, I've got one. Oh, I've got a couple of NT questions. Oh, just about to knock off. All right, hang on. I've got Tan, Adelaide River, NT. Am I going to get flooded in again? And Daniel, I asked about wind and rain for Catherine. Sorry, Daniel, I must have missed it. Let's have a quick look. So... what's the one thing we learned from tonight? We need to be on the northern side. So the one thing we need tonight is one thing we've got to understand tonight is if we're on the northern side, we're getting pummeled. If we're on the southern side, we're not going to get much. So let's have a look at where Catherine's expected to be and Adelaide River. And we're going to zoom out a little bit so we can get both. And we'll even get Darwin in the picture as well. So... we're going to see where these areas are going to be in response or in relation to where the cyclone is. So, once again, what's our key take-home? If we're on the north of the cyclone, we're getting pummeled. If we're on the south of the cyclone, we won't even know it's a cyclone. All right, so let's have a look. Where is the system expected to go? So we hit the coast and then we go inland. And you can see there, we push through Bullman. We push through just between Katherine and Pine Creek. Now, here's the problem, right? So at the moment, it looks as though that Pine Creek and Katherine, it's going to split that area. So that means that for Katherine, if we're slightly incorrect about that, and only slightly incorrect about that, Katherine's still going to get pummeled. So it's really important that we're Adelaide River, great chance of getting pummeled. All right, so for Adelaide River, yeah, absolutely. You're going to be more than likely, very highly likely on the northern side of that. Okay, so Daly River, Adelaide River, these areas are going to get hit pretty hard on the cyclone as it approaches. Now, just be aware, surface winds are not going to be anything like what they're going to be out on the other side, right? So just be very, very mindful here. When I say pummeled, I'm talking more about the rain aspect, okay, not the wind aspect as such. So if we take a look at our winds, we can see the system is still producing up to about 40 to 50 knot gusts as it pushes through this area. Now you'll notice Katherine's on the southern side, so they're not getting smacked by rain, not getting smacked by a hell of a lot of rain. They're still getting a few showers, but Pine Creek is getting absolutely smashed, and so too will Adelaide River in the next sort of frame as the system pushes westwards. So the idea here is that just because the system's on the northern side of you doesn't mean you're not going to get wind. It just means you're not going to get a hell of a lot of rain. All right, so that's what we're talking about. By saying you're going to get pummeled on the northern side, we're talking about rain there. So for Adelaide River, you will be on the northern side, very highly likely that you will be anyway, and you will likely see very significant rainfall. And then as we push the cyclone through, you can see that our heaviest rain pushes westwards towards that Adelaide River area and then pushes off the coastline fairly quickly along with the cyclone. You'll notice there for Darwin, while we've got Darwin on the screen, you'll notice there a lot of the heaviest falls of rain are happening south of Darwin. But there is a period for that Katherine area where it's going to be on a knife's edge, because with the system coming where it's expected to go at the moment between Katherine and Pine Creek, we've seen models be very much wrong about that before, okay? So it only needs to push a touch further south and suddenly Katherine finds itself in here instead of... So Katherine finds itself in here instead of in here, all right? So from a rainfall perspective, there's going to be a really sharp rainfall gradient, what we call rain gradient, where there's sort of heaps of rain to no rain, and there's a really sharp distinction line. So when we take a look at this will explain the rain gradient concept a bit easier. So see here how we've got potentially falls up to 200 to 300 millimetres just north of where the cyclone pushes through. Now, if we're slightly incorrect about that position, and there's every chance we could be, then this 2 to 300 could shift southwards. By the same token, if we're incorrect to the northern side, then this could shift a slightly further northwards. So you can see Darwin is on the northern side, too far away from the heaviest rain. Katherine on the southern side, too far away from the heaviest rain. But for Katherine, there's a little bit more chance that the system might push a touch further south than for Darwin for the system to push further north. Okay? So just understand. And the other thing we need to understand here is it's a really sharp period of rainfall. It's not an ongoing saga. All right? It's 100 mils over 3 hours, followed by another 100 mils over the next 3 or 4 hours. It's a 6 to 9 hour period of extreme rainfall rates, and that's it. There's no major follow-up rain, all right? There's no major ongoing rainfall. There's still a hot, humid air mass here. There's still opportunities for showers and isolated thunderstorms, but that's our typical NT stuff that we get in the wet season. It's not a convergence band, or it's not like what Katherine got the few weeks back, where they just had a blob of rain just sitting over them for days on end. All right, it's not that sort of thing. So that's what we're looking for. And the timing of this, the timing is sort of Sunday, probably around lunchtime is when we'd start to see the heavy rain through that area. And then as we push into Sunday night, we should be seeing the end of it. All right, so Sunday to Sunday night. And in that period of Sunday lunchtime to Sunday night, there should be up to 200 or 300 millimetres falling. That's the issue, right? So that's the issue that we're going to see through that Katherine area. And through that, Nyulunbuy, Pine Creek, Adelaide River, all that area to the south of Darwin. And that will extend to the coast to places as far north as maybe Dundee Beach, depending on exactly how far north the cyclone tracks, okay? So that's what we're anticipating. And just a reminder that if you find yourself on the southern side, there's a fair chance still that you're going to get a fair bit of wind. You can see that our winds on the southern side still packing a bit of a punch, eh? All right, so it's not just... It's the rain certainly is going to be dominated on the northern side, but the wind, you can see here, there's actually quite a nice wind field. Okay, so that's the expectation here. And if we take a look at the Bureau of Meteorology's modelling, you can see the Bureau of Meteorology's track map, I should say. You can see the system passing basically exactly where I mentioned there, between Katherine and Pine Creek. And you see there's an error margin, but the error margin's pretty tight. All right, but it does include Katherine in the error margin. All right, so if the cyclone does pass a touch further south, then Katherine does find itself in that extreme period of rainfall for a few hours. Okay, so that's what we're looking for at the moment, mate, for Katherine, Adelaide River, Darwin. Okay? The only thing I'd say for Darwin, just be aware that as the cyclone pushes to the west, and I'm just going to zoom us up to Darwin while I've got them on screen. Let me find them. So just as the cyclone pushes to the west and gets close to the coast, there is a chance there that we just spark up those winds a little bit. So even though the really heavy rain and intense rain is going to be south of Darwin, see, as we get closer to the coast, so as we get the system out towards Daly River, and then we start to push it out towards Port Keats, you see here how we're increasing the wind speeds, and that with that wind speed increase may even get to Darwin Harbour. So the cyclone's actually moving away, but the winds could be getting stronger as it moves away, just because of its area of effect getting larger as it approaches the coastline. All right, so just be aware of that. We're not talking cyclone strength winds, we're talking below that, but certainly gusty, and if you're a boatie and you're not aware of that, yeah, you're gonna be up Schitt's Creek. So just be aware of that if you're in the Darwin area. We do expect to see some squally winds, especially once the cyclone gets closer to the coastline. Okay, but nothing cyclonic at this stage, below cyclone strength. All right. Nash, Jesse, mate, we talked about Nhulunbuy for tomorrow, Arvo. Plenty of rain, but at this stage just north of the core. So plenty of rain, plenty of wind, but the core is a little bit further south, mate. So yeah. But I've gone through that in depth, right? So make sure you're checking out that pre-record video. I'll put the timelines on there once I'm finished. We're fine in WIQ. I didn't put on half the show that was expected. Yeah, maybe not. Malcolm, just be aware that there have been way over 100 km/h winds recorded there. So just because you might have fared well doesn't mean everyone in the area has fared well. With those things that we've got with that northern side of the circulation, it was a little bit more localised for those winds, right? It was all about the convection potential on that northern side as opposed to a structured wind field. So there's some pretty unstructured winds around Weipa. So some places may have got more than that 109 recorded, and many places would have got less, mate. So it's always important when we're in a cyclone that we don't just dismiss things and say it's not as bad, because there are localised effects, and I remember Airlie Beach, we chased a cyclone called Debbie in 2017, and the one end of the street was getting obliterated, the other end of the street barely a breath of wind. And it all comes down to the way the street was orientated versus the winds. There was a structure that was holding back the wind on one side of the street, and there was a hill on the other side of the street, or the hill was closer to the other side of the street that was creating downslope accelerated wind fields, right? So there's so much nuance that goes into an urban, or I know Weipa's not a big city, but towns and any sort of urban settlements, there's so many intricate things that happen with wind. Just because you didn't get hit and your mate didn't get hit down the road and your 5 mates down the road didn't get hit, doesn't mean that someone didn't. and that's often something that grinds our gears when it comes to people showing sort of no empathy for people that did cop that. I'm not having a go at you there. I'm just saying that there have been serious wins in Weipa. But they're not Cat 4 wins, they're just Cat 1 wins. And Cat 1, most things should survive a Cat 1, right? There might be a couple of trees down. No idea how Arakoon's going, mate. Sorry, can't help you there. Yeah, Jess says crazy storm surge in the Cairns beaches. Yeah, that was a strong southeaster. Jody, Nitso, is the... I think the Ladies Fishing Classic presentation is tomorrow night in Gove. So they are all stressing. Yeah, it's going to be windy and wet in Gove for sure tomorrow night. Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But are they going to get a Cat 3 cyclone? No. Do you ever notice Munji? Munji's a regular these days. Do you ever notice cyclones are much more scary in real life than videos? Yeah. Videos don't do... Cyclones are... Photos definitely don't do cyclones justice. And videos don't do cyclones justice either because... it's a very different experience feeling it and being in it than it is seeing it on a screen. Like, very different experience. You don't... Unless you've lived it, and a lot of northern folks have lived it, you understand what you're seeing on the screen. You show that screen to 15 million Aussies who don't live in the north, or 17, 18 million that don't live in the north. They're just going to go, oh, a few trees bending. But those trees bending, it's fucking scary when you're under the frickin' tree. And those trees bending as much as they do, it's bloody scary. You don't see that on a video. You see trees bending, whoopee-doo. But, man, you get under those trees and you got cars and you got a roof under that tree. It's fucking scary. You don't get that sense when you're looking at it on a video. So, yeah, Munji, you're 100% spot on, mate. Bomb's track map is a bit off. I don't think so. Once again, just remember that the cyclone's not a very well put together thing at the moment, so it's got different centres in different spots. Bomb's doing the best they can with all the different centres. They're tracking the surface centre. Bana Shaka. What about Groote Island? Bud, most of this video was about Groote Island. You'll have to go back and have a look. I'm not going to go over Groote again. Just when this is available, go back. I'll get some timelines there so you can check out when Groote Island was, but we talked about them a lot. I was in a downburst once and I thought I would die, and no one even knew it happened. Yeah, newbie. Yeah, absolutely. Downdrafts are bloody scary. Very scary if you're on a plane. Goodness me. Extremely dangerous if you're in a plane. But yeah, very scary because they're such a small thing. Matt, just wanted to say, Nitso, you're honestly the best at predicting and information. Love Weather IQ. As soon as you post updates, the major weather companies adjust to you. Great work. I'm not going to be that vain and suggest that it's because of me, but listen, if some of those companies do follow us, that's fantastic that they do, and then they get right information out to the people, because we believe we're right 9 times out of 10. There'll be that 1 time out of 10 that we're wrong. I'm okay with that. We want to improve all the time, of course, but we're never going to be right all the time. Steve, what about Perth? Brooksy runs a... Brooksy, give your page a plug. What's it called? Weather Live. It's a big page in WA. It's a really good weather page for WA folk. Brooksy, help me out here. What's the name of your page? Western Australia Weather Live? No. Perth Weather Live. Perth Weather Live. Yeah, that's a great, really good page for WA residents. So if you love your weather in WA, make sure you're checking out Perth Weather Live. Brooksy, for Perth, it's too far out. I don't know if you're G'ing me up there, but we just don't know, mate. There's a small chance that we get something around Perth, but there's a much greater chance that we're getting something closer to Onslow, Exmouth, Carnarvon, Denham, those sort of areas, right? So that's probably our better chance area at the moment. And then we've still got a chance that everything stays offshore. So I'm pretty sure you're jamming me up. I'm pretty sure you're jamming me up asking me about Perth, but we just don't know at this stage, mate. We do know that there's likely to be some type of recurvature, but is that recurvature going to happen from out here like the Euro has? You know, by this stage, well, we're talking about nothing anyway. You can see we've dropped all intensities. Or are we talking about a recurvature here? You know, whereas you're talking about something that's a fair bit more dramatic in this scenario here. And, you know, it comes down to how strong the ridge is and whether or not it gets reinforced longer term. But that's a more technical thing that we want to sort of talk about here tonight. But, yeah, watch this space. I'll be back on Sunday night, so feel free to ask me Sunday night. Sunday night, the cyclone should be around about here Sunday night. So we hopefully have some better guidance. I'm not going to say we're going to know, but hopefully we'll have some better guidance, and, you know, we're not going to have 2,000 kilometres of error 7 days out by Sunday night. We might be able to bring that in a little bit. We still won't know what part of the coast is going to get hit, but we'll probably know if the coast is going to get hit, and that's a start. And that we'll know by Sunday night for sure, I reckon. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm off to, actually, no, the NRL. I might still catch the end of the NRL. So I'm off to that. I'll talk to you again Sunday night. Just remember, if you'd like to support us, head over to weatheriq.com.au/subscribe and join us. And I'll have heaps of video forecasts out for the members tomorrow morning. Good night. Oh, and stay safe.